Bonjour à tous, ici Elsa de la plateforme Ludipsy et aujourd'hui pour cette présentation, j'ai un invité spécial, Ivan Rajkovic, qui, si je prononce bien son nom, qui va nous parler en fait d'un jeu qu'il a conçu lui et sa famille, The Forest of Radgost. Et en fait, c'est quelque chose d'un peu spécial aujourd'hui. Vous allez m'entendre parler en anglais parce que l'entrevue va se faire en anglais. L'anglais, la langue qui nous permet de communiquer à travers le monde. Donc, pour vous parler rapidement un peu du jeu en français, Forest of Radgost est un jeu coopératif de style narratif, un jeu qui combine cartes, dés et personnages. Et dans ce jeu, en fait, on joue des personnages qui veulent sauver les différents enfants d'un village et redécouvrir en fait le passé un peu mystérieux de la forêt de Radgost. Donc, ce qui a commencé par être un projet scolaire et qui s'est transformé à travers les 6 dernières années en jeu et qui maintenant va apparaître sur Kickstarter bientôt, donc le 10 février prochain. Alors, sans plus tarder, je nous lance dans l'entrevue avec Ivan. So, hi, hi. So I explain a little bit what is the game and a little bit of you, who you are in French. So now I'm going to speak in English with my beautiful English speaking. So what I explain is that you create Forest of Radgost, a game, if I read the little descriptive, it's the quest to save the missing village children and rediscover a forgotten mystical past in the Forest of Radgost. So, Ivan Rajkovic, you are one of the game designer of this game, and also you are an electrical engineer. So, can you present a little bit of yourself, like what is your gamer profile and what is your professional work?
Thank you for this beautiful introduction. It sounds very beautiful in French. I didn't understand the word, but as I said, I just enjoyed the language. And by the way, we will have the French edition of the game, so it will be localized and translated to the French. So I guess that your followers and listeners are glad to hear that. And I'm glad that we managed to get enough interest from Canada and France for that to happen. So thank you all that has followed us and insists that we translate the game. Well, about me, I'm husband and father. I am electrical engineer, as you put. More specific, I'm in software engineering and around 17 years from starting position like junior software developer all the way to the head of software department. So that's something that helped a lot during this project because I had a previous experience that was very valuable. I'm one of co-creators and not the main one because if there was no my son Dimitri, I would never enter this endeavor. And if there was no my wife, which pushed me over the limit because she's a little bit more perfect. She likes things to be perfect as it can be, but I'm engineer and I tend to optimize things. So it's perfect match in terms of game, not so perfect in terms of cooperation because we are different and the result is good. But there is a lot of conflict during the process, how to get there. So that's in short who I'm with whom I started and work, but it's so much more because we meet so many wonderful people, artists, and so much different people from all lines of things that you need to put up the game. And as I said to you before this conversation is I vastly underestimated how hard it is to produce the game to the end. One of the reasons why I entered this was I wanted creative, beautiful thing to do together with my son. So it was what can we do? well, why wouldn't we make our own game? So idea was actually because when I was around his age, a little bit older, he was 8 when we started. He's now 14. And I was around 10 when we made games in my hometown, because it was rather, I already spoke about that in another interview, so I feel like repeating, but it was rather hard to get games. So we made our own. And it was actually even more fun to make the game than to play the game. So it's something that I remember that child can do and enjoying doing it. So I wanted to do that with my son. And we started that, but I had, as every parent has, a little bit more than just fun and enjoyment with my son. I wanted to teach him something. And the thing that I wanted to teach him is, when you start to do something, it's not only creative and fun part, but there is a lot of tedious, monotone things that you would have to do to bring that to the end. Of course, we did a lot of things together, but he managed to sneak out from some of very boring stuff, like where and how to produce and everything that he didn't find interesting at all. But he saw me doing that. At least he knows.
He learned.
Yeah, he learned that it's not a trivial task. So basically, from idea to the end, there is a lot of things and a lot of people that you meet, and it's very strange feeling when you look back to see that it's 6 years and who knows how many hours and who knows how many people, and not everything was pleasant, but in the end, as a learning experience, this is very beautiful. And from the perspective how much I failed in estimating, it was, we talked 2 years and it will be finished. It took us 3 times more. So that was unbelievably
a really long process.
Yeah. At the first, I didn't think about the Kickstarter, so that may be a little bit excuse to have in terms of how far I was from prediction, how long it will take. But being first-time creator and not knowing many things and learning many things from trial and error, it's definitely also thing that everybody who start making the game should have in mind, that it would last a lot longer if he wants to produce something that is equal to his idea or vision of what it should be. So basically, we all have some beautiful ideas and plans that we want to achieve, but when we start doing that, then it starts to be more complex to bring it to the world.
So I understand, and for people who listen to the video, if you want more information about the teams, you can go on the website of Forest of Radgost. They have created a wonderful website with a lot of information about the game, about the conception, the design of the game, about the team, the Slavic mythology. So it's really interesting. I read that you work with a lot of person, so a lot of person help you with the game. So I understand that at first it was a school project with your son, Dimitri, and after you decide to work together like a family project on the board game, and it's beginning to go bigger and bigger, and you pass more time and more energy to create a concrete board game.
Yeah, you definitely painted the construction in the right way. So it was natural growth. It was not planned growth. So basically, the game that Dimitri and I started has the same basic mechanic, but it's not the same game, because the map, the creatures, and the encounters with creatures, that's something that we had from the beginning. but my wife introduced exploring the forest and cards and a lot of items. There's more than 200 cards, 8 or 9 decks with the different items and objects and everything, from ranging from simple plant and how the Slavic belief was about that plant, what plant heals and how you can use it, ranging to the new mythical companion or something very strange like golden egg, or which you can of course catch, and you will have to play the game to see what catch from the golden egg.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, at first it was a more simple game, and after, with all your knowledge, because if I well understand, your wife is a professor, university
Yeah.
professor, so each people put a little bit of himself and the knowledge they have to create a more complex game.
Yeah, actually, I'm sure that we are bigger and better because of the feedback of all the different people that we received. Not only the team that work here, but also I think that it's one of the strongest things with independent teams. So it's not company team, because you gather completely different type of people from different perspective of life, and all they bring some kind of approach which enrich the final product. For example, my wife is as PhD. She done a lot of research, a lot of studying in her life, and she bring that to the game. So we insist to be as close as possible to scientific data and the books that were written by proven and known scholars. So that was one aspect of the game. And of course, Dimitri as a child bring the aspect that we don't make disaster of the game and make it too serious, because as a child we always get that perspective that we don't have as adults. So the reason that there were no killing in the game is because of Dimitri. He insisted that there was no killing in the game. So we kept that. So you cannot kill any creature in the forest, because forest is under protection of God Radgost. So everything in there is protected, and you may or must find a different way to navigate through that problems. So there is a fight, there is a communication, there is also a running, and there is hiding. So that's our basic actions. And if you think a little bit, and you're a psychologist, you will understand that's the more or less the basic action that you do in the real life in face of danger. So you either fight or either run, or if you are lucky enough, you will hide from danger and danger will pass. So it's something that is deeply rooted in our psychology. And running is, if you look from the perspective of history, one of the earliest disciplines. So it's much more than just running from something, but it was important as a sport also. So one of the few the first Olympics was running disciplines, one of the first disciplines that were present. So it's with us very, very long. So all of things are somehow related to history and core of human beings. So in example, why forest? Why not something else? I was born and lived first 6 years on the mountain of Jastrabats, and that is small village in that mountain, and there is a big forest. It's one of the rare forests that is still untouched. A lot of things are untouched in comparison with other mountains. And the thing of that particular stuff is that I always felt something very powerful and strange about the forest, and the feeling about entering the forest. And that was something that I simply felt, and I thought that forest is natural, thing to have where creatures will be and God will be and protects them. So it wasn't rooted in mythology, but my own experience. And after that, we found some article that was written by some very, very big name of science and technology here in Serbia. And actually, if you analyze all the stories and all the games, not games, all the stories and all the poems and everything that is traditional or folk-wise, you will find that forest is the place where divine and creatures can meet with the human. So human has its own realm, its village or city, and forest is the meeting place. And divine don't live in the forest, but that's the only place where all those fascinating encounters happens.
Yeah.
So at the end, it turns out that the choosing of forest as melting point of this action was quite right from that perspective also.
Oh, it's really interesting because I told you a little bit before the interview, but I'm really close to native spirituality, and I'm in the field of psychology, so I value really the good values behind a game and all the history, all the narrativity, and I find it really interesting in the game Forest of Radgost that all the research behind the inclusion of the Slavic mythology in the game. So all the documentation you read about and all the personal experience in the game, I think you can feel it like when
Thank
you read.
That's very, very nice to hear. Well, we definitely, as you asked me, I'm a big fan of the epic, also Lord of the Rings and similar. And you know that there is that need to have real characters with real stories, with real values, so you can relate to them, and then you immerse in the story and you lose yourself, and that's completely different feeling. So we try to recreate that as much as we could in the board game, and it has a little bit of role play game. It has a little bit of board game. So as I said, it's kind of gateway game, both in the terms of how it plays and both in the terms with whom you play. You can play it with children, but you can also play it with your friends that are not in the board gaming, and you can play it even with the hardcore gamers because they can play with their friends that are not total. So it's like some kind of joint point where everything meets. So, but to be frank, and we wanted to share that message wherever we can. It's not everybody's cup of tea. There is no such game that is good for everybody. So if you don't like surprises, if you don't like mythical stuff, if you don't like to have randomness and luck in the game that influence the story and the narrative, then it's not your type of game. If you look for pure logic, something like chess or something there where you have full control and intellect is the emperor, this is not that kind of game. This game is partly like in real life. You have the control, and mostly your character will draw the story because you will choose to fight. You will learn why it's good or not good. You will choose to do it. Much of that will come from your character, and some of things will be because you choose the character. But it's fun because you project yourself to the game. And but there is a part there is not under your control, and I found that very, very good from my perspective because okay, I understand that there is a people who like to have the games where everything is resource and so on. I'm not like that, and I couldn't make the game like that, so I made the game like I love, and I love that game has that flavor of unpredictability. So you don't know what can happen. You don't know where it will lead you, and the only thing that you know is that setting is mysterious, and you have so much knowledge that you can use as best as you can, but you have no full control. As in real life, you have to be straight to yourself. You don't have full control, no matter how strongly you believe in that. So it's better to know that there is a things that are outside of your control. It's not like you should give up. You should do your best, but don't expect that your best is enough in all situations. So I think that it carries that important message together with fascinating things that nobody could imagine by himself. I would be immodest to say that game is good because of our work. Yes, our work matters, but the source of Slavic mythology provides us with so many unbelievably rich things that you will never dare to think of. But because they exist as a story, you can use them, and you find it very interesting, and you find it engaging, and they force you to think differently. So I will give you an example of one item. It's a sand rope. It's rope made of sand. So interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. You never think about something like sand to be able to form the rope. So there must be some magic behind it, because it wouldn't function. So what is that makes sand rope, and why it's important? So there is a lot of this kind of stuff there. And to be completely on the point, not everything is fully Slavic mythology rooted. There is, of course, part of our imagination and some things that we added from our perspective. But I hope we will manage, because my wife has written down all the sources. We will manage to give you the full list of sources and the reference what we have used, so you will know what is from the literature, what is from the folk tales, and what is neither of both, but pure imagination.
Okay, it's really interesting, because it's true then in real life you don't have control about all the things happening. So I find it really interesting when in the board game the game designer think about that. And it's interesting sometimes to play a game and to be super powerful and invincible, and when you can die. But in same time, I find it's really interesting, and you can learn a lot when you play a game and you stay human. Like, you need to use your human abilities and to think about your strong abilities and the difficulties to stay in the game and to finish a game. So it's interesting a game when you have this part of loss of control, and yes, you can influence your environment and the other character, but you're not super powerful.
No.
So
this was from the beginning our decision, and you will find it also interesting. I think we started to think how there is too much games. Okay, we decided that it will be Slavic mythology, and then we started to speak about what will be the plot about the story, because we have to have that baseline that drives the narrative. And it's always some kind of thing that has happened and brings some big change, and always it's some kind of danger or something similar that has to be dealt with. But too many games took that narrative to the level that you cannot relate to, like fighting the gods, or saving the planet, or going to extreme superhero version. I'm not saying that it's not good. I enjoy superhero movies, and I love all of them. Now less than when I was a kid, but still And I think that there is place for that. There was too much of that kind of game, and we wanted to offer something different. And then we decided to have something very strange, and that is because, of course, there is no killing of Forest of Radgost, so you don't have to be powerful warrior, because that's not something very important to enter the forest and save the children. So the Jrec, which is actually something like shaman or sorcerer or priest, there is no translation for it, but or we didn't find it for the word Jrec in English, and he had to choose who enters the forest, because forest is sacred, it's forbidden to enter there, so you get that plot like in the Bible. You shouldn't eat that apple, it's from God, so you shouldn't break that. And so you have here similar. You shouldn't enter the forest under any circumstances, and he knows that very well, but children are in the forest, and so do you want to leave the children there, or do you want to save the children and break the taboo and risk the rape of God? So that's kind of moral dilemma that he has to fight with. And then he chose the people that would join him. And we took liberty to make us different characters as we can. So we have two elders. So healer, which is practically grandmother if you go by the age. You have ex-chieftain, which is Ratibor. He's also beyond the age you will expect to send to the forest. But those age bring the other qualities that you will have to use, and you will have to play from the perspective of someone who is not agile, who cannot run very well, but can communicate very well, and other capabilities are better. So you have elders, you have one warrior, but his main let's say, reason to enter the forest is not because he's a warrior, but he was found in the winter and he was unconscious and saved by the village, and he never remembered his past. But the thing that also he don't remember is his name, so he doesn't know his name. And in the Slavic belief, at least in the Serbian part here, is that in order for magic to work, you have to know the name of the person to send the magic. So if you don't know the real name of the person, you cannot send magic on him. So that's one of the reasons to choose him. And there is a priestess, which is pretty young and very, very capable, but also unsure, because the gift on the one side is a burden on another side. So if you are very gifted, you enter the zone you shouldn't enter at that age. So it's kind of disbalance in terms of life. And we have the hunter, which of course is a logical choice because he can track and he can find and navigate in the forest very well. But so yes, not Radgost forest because he never been there, but forest is forest, so good to have him. And of course you have the Jrec and you have the children, so you have all span from 10 years to let's say 60, 70 years, and you can play any kind of character. So very old character, very young character, female, male. It's completely different in different perspective. And if you, every character has the backstory, so you can read about him and read about her and read about their, how we imagine them, and bring those characteristics in your mind and combine with your characteristic and produce something unique. So it was very interesting to see people bringing their own values to the game. So we had the people who will try just to fight for the game. Of course, you cannot do that. The game will not allow you to do that, but they will try nonetheless. And what is also interesting about these stories. Actually, we wrote only one story at the beginning, and that was the nameless story, the story of Warrior, because it was kind of, well, this is good introduction point for people that will play the game. He has no recollection. He doesn't know their culture. He's out of, and he's feeling a little bit strange, but he's in debt because they saved his life and he's willing to go to help. So basically, every player can relate to that. You don't know the game very well. You don't speak that language very well. Everything is set up so you can relate to that. And after that, we started to work with Emir and Adin Durmishevich. They are the most professional people from the artist world that I ever met, in terms that I really, really rarely see the artists that respect the timelines. So
Yeah.
this was a surprise for me. So big thanks to Edin and Amir. And they do the wonderful work of illustration, but they said, if you want us to give you the best we can, we need the backstory for every character. So we made, thanks to them, all the backstories. And the thing that I like to speak about is that I and Dimitri was actually the authors of the stories, and Dimitri wrote some of the stories. I won't spoil, so I will let anybody who knows that to try to guess which story was written by Dimitri. And I'll just tell you that one story that was written by him is the story of the boy. So you actually get that point of view of very young child, and you get that feeling of language and using of language of young child, and look on the world of young child. So it's authentic in terms of age and experience.
Oh, it's so interesting because we can see that the narrativity is really complex and you think a lot about it. And it's interesting this part of the game where you can make a personification of the character. So it's really when you can understand the history and the background of a character, you can understand their character, and like the role playing is an important part of the immersion in a game. So I think it's a really interesting part of the game. It's all the immersion in the cultural mythology and the forest, all the history, and the identification of the character. I think it's interesting when you play a child and you can feel like all the your child side going up in front of you, and you're a child all the time you're playing the game. And this part of role playing and personification is a really important part of a game, I think, from
I completely
my
agree
view.
from my point of view also. So basically, the thing that we wanted to achieve with the game is that you forget about yourself as yourself, and to transpose you in the different time, different place with the different creatures that you also will get to know, and the how can I say, the richness of the creature is also big, because there's 20 creatures, 20 different creatures, and we were very careful about choosing the creatures that are not all already in the pop culture, because popular culture has some creatures from Slavic mythology already well established, like vampire, like werewolf, and some others. So basically, there is the creatures that are already there and very known, and we try to bring as much as new creatures with a different set of traits and different personalities that they represent. So basically, you cannot approach creature in the same manner. It depends which creature you will meet, and sometimes we get the feedback about, well, it's not that good that you don't know to meet which creature you will meet before you make the decision. So base mechanic about encountering is that there is a like coin which has a number, and that number is the number of the creatures in Book of Encounters. But not all the coins, most of the coins has number only on one side. So when you shuffle the coins and put them on the crossroads where you meet the creature, you will not know which creature you will meet. So basically, we thought about that in this way. You're in the forest, everything is dark, you're a little bit scared, and the adrenaline is pumping. So, and of course, some of these creatures are never shown, and you probably never saw them also. So you know them only by stories, and you don't have many time to decide what you have to do. So you have to rely on your instincts. So that was the reason why we put the creature is unknown. So you have to decide before. But it's not that simple because you will be able to use ability cards and everything that you gained and so on to get that encounter in the direction that you want, and that is that you are successful in encounter. But if creature is successful in encounter, you pay your dues and consequences that you will read in the book of encounters, but creatures remains open. So you will put the figure or the standee of the creature instead of the token, or on the top of the token. So when next player comes, he sees the creature, he knows what the creature, and he can prepare. So he has a better options there. So there is a encounter with a hidden creature, encounter with the open creature, and there is a sudden encounter, and there is the creature that are always open, and there's a special case, but I won't go too many details. So it's a little bit of everything. It's not just that simple, but it's very hard to communicate everything to the people that hasn't played the game.
Yeah.
And that is why reviews, interviews, and all those is important to carry that message. When we are at Mechanic, I would like also to point to the usage of dice. Dice is somehow, I get the impression that dice is currently, for a lot of people that I met, is something that is no, you shouldn't use dice in your games, something like that. It's old-fashioned, and you should. But we thought about mechanic and what would work for our game, and as a independence, you don't have to follow the rules. You just do what you think it's right, because you don't have idea about going big or idea of going even to the Kickstarter. So you're not, how can I say, you're not obliged to follow the trend on the market. You should listen after you make the first prototype, the feedback, and incorporate everything that could be better. But some things are definitely better if you don't listen at the beginning. So what is the story about the dice? When you enter the forest, the natural thing is everything looks pretty much the same, and all the paths look the same, and the people get tendency to go in the circles because they have several reasons for that, and one of those, if I remember correctly, is because you have one leg stronger than another, and you're constantly pushing in one direction. So in the end, you will go in the circle. But the idea was, it's an unknown forest you're entering, and you don't know where the child is, so you have to roam the forest. And in order to simulate that feeling of being lost and not knowing where to go, we introduced two dice. One dice is direction dice, another dice is movement dice. So basically, movement dice is simple dice with the numbers. So it says how many fields you move in that execution of that move. And the direction dice, actually, because there's a lot of paths and they meet and cross. At the crossroads, you have to choose where you go, left, right, or so. And the dice that have direction is left, right, and free. So it's not like dice is always deciding about your movement, but sometimes dice will get you in the wrong direction. Sometimes it will get the free, so you can choose. Because the problem was, when you put the children on the spot where they are lost, if you don't have direction dice that would navigate you, you will go just straight to the children because you see it from the God's perspective. Oh, they are there, and I will go just this path. So we introduced that direction dice. And of course, there is abilities and creatures and plants that could help you navigate. So you can get free paths for one or two trolls that you don't use the direction dice, or in rare cases when you gain very, very big ability, you will get situation that you will navigate without the dice, or you're in much, much better position. But all of those things is something that you have to find or earn or get by luck and chance. And nothing is simple as it seems. So we were speaking about getting something from the forest. And let's say that you are exploring the forest, and that is done by having the big white deck. and in white deck you draw the card. If you are not having an encounter, you have chance to explore the forest. You don't have to because it's risky business. And if you choose to do, which most people do because it's fun, when I think it's generally that you do risk things generally because it's fun. Okay, back to the story. You took the card and you get something like you have to help, let's say, hedgehog or turtle or something of some animal is in trouble or something strange happening and you want to do something to see what is happening. And as you will get some side quests that if you perform, which can range from very easy to medium or complex. And if you perform that quest, you will get instruction what have you gained. And sometimes that thing that you gain is simple, so it's just easy. And sometimes it directs you to get it from the red deck. And there was things that we wanted to achieve is that even if you have played the game several times, and you know that if you help the, let's say, baby eagle, you will get the feather, which you can use to call its parents, and they can help you with various tasks. But we decided that we will put several, 2 or more cards in the red deck that has eagle into trouble. So when you take the card from the red deck, you actually, even if you know what you can get, you will not know what you will get because there is different outcomes about what you will get. So sometimes you do the good deed and get something, you do the good deed and you get nothing, or do the good deed and get into trouble. So it's a different. And the most important thing for us, and that's one of the very important feedback that we get from adding Durmish to one of the artists. And that is also important, I would say. Most of the people that design or work on this game has played the game. So you were associated with the people who doesn't know the game. So they have to play the game and to feel the game and to know what the game is about to be able to do the proper, their part of the job. And he said, well, I have all those beautiful stories, but the thing that I found problematic is that I don't want mechanic to interfere because it's breaking the story. So we push the story higher than mechanic. Mechanic is just to get the story going. We really try to give mechanic as simple as it can be, so you don't have the feeling of game. You get the feeling just of being in the story and flow of the story. That was, let's say, a very important feedback and something that we pursued as much as we could.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's for that reason that you call the game a storytelling game and a cooperative game. Like, it seemed for me more like narrativity, a board game, and a kind of role-playing game more than action game or a fighting game example.
Yeah, definitely more the storytelling and the narrative and cooperative. One of the beautiful stuff, and I don't know if it's unique, but for us was revelation, is when you start testing the game, actually you cannot get always people to arrive at the same time because sometimes the traffic is horrible in Belgrade and sometimes weather or some other higher cause that will cause the one who should come to test the game, let's say at 5 p.m. to came for 45 minutes later. And actually, Forest of Radgost tolerate that because if you think a little, and that is not something that we thought about, it just happened. Because if you think a little, imagine that 2 children is lost in the forest, and some people organize the search party and go to the forest, and you came late because you were doing some job, and no problem, pack your things and go to the forest and try to find the children by yourself or reach the others and make the group. That was also one of the parts of the game. You can actually do it by spreading and searching the forest individually, or you can be in the group. So when you form the group, abilities change. So basically, in example, if you have grandmother or grandfather, to be precise, healer or chieftain, but I use grandmother and grandfather with a good reason. If you have them in your group, you will move as fast as they can move. So basically, you will use their smallest dice. So your movement is slower, but you will gain some other things like communication, fighting, and abilities will go up. But there is safety in numbers, but there is also danger because you can get trapped. And if you're trapped as a group, then all of you are trapped, and who will come to rescue? So it's give and take. Everything has its ups and downs, and depends on what you like to do and how you like to approach the game. It's pretty, how can I say, I cannot say it's open world because it's limited, but it's a semi-open world. So you can explore the forest, you can encounter the creatures, you can form the group, you don't have to form the group. There's a lot of side quests and different stuff that will and can happen in the forest. So it will be different each time. And as we said, this is also important. As always, to my wife Alexandra wanted to have something even better in one moment. And after introducing the cards and exploring the forest, which it was hard thing to gather everything and make it function. Then she told, okay, we have backstories and we have the basic action, and that is to save the children, which is perfectly fine and everything, but why wouldn't we have personal mission? And what is personal mission? Personal mission is something that you will do at the higher level when you are more
experiences in the game. And,
thank you for that word, and just stop working. And what is happening there is that based on your personal story and everything that you are, the sorcerer, the druids, actually choose you not only because you can help to find the children, but he knows that something that troubles you can be solved in the forest if you meet the right creature or do the proper thing. So basically, he knows that you can resolve some of your problems in the forest. In example, I will give a little spoiler. Nameless doesn't know his history and doesn't know his name. So basically, he can and will, when you solve the personal mission of who he is, how he ended up being in the snow, wounded, and almost half frozen and dead. So there is a lot in the personal mission also.
It's very interesting. So it's a 1 to 7 players game. So you can play alone or you can play with other people. And if I well understand, you can also play with other people and play the same character. So the character can evolve, like grow by playing.
Yeah. During the game, you will gain ability or lose ability. You will change your status by meeting and befriending with some other creature or human. So it's interesting what can happen there. And as we said, everything changes and shifts from time to time. It's magical realm, so it's not that straightforward. Don't expect to just go straight up. Level up. You can fall just as easily as you can rise. So
like in real life.
I understand that some people don't like that kind of how can I say, surprises deeply embedded in the game. But we thought that if we do not make games surprise you and do not make mythical creatures and gods more powerful than you, then we will lose the flavor of the fairy tale and lose the essence of the story. And that is the story is the thing that matters, not your will or power. So basically, if you would be in charge, we couldn't provide you with exciting story, because you will be powerful and powerful and more powerful, and at the end you will save the children, and that's it. So it will be pretty linear and pretty boring from my point of view if we do that like that.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting to have a little bit of mystery, of luck, and a little bit of strategic, but not just one thing, because like you say, is more linear, and you already know the end of the story.
I will give you the example why it's not true that it's not dependent of your knowledge, because some people are afraid of that. My son Dimitri, because he was the one who chose all the creatures at the end, because there was too many creatures to include in the game, and we had to make some kind of subset. And the first was, as I said, we don't want to do popular culture creatures because we will not learn anything new. And when we gathered the unknown, not all of them are unknown, but let's say the ones that are interesting from our point of view, there is still too many. It's very rich and enormous mythology when it comes to creature. And then Dimitri took on his assignment to choose the one who will enter the game. And he knows them very well in terms of character and traits. And of course, if you know them by the character and traits, you don't know which creature you will meet, but every creature that you solve or succeed with, it goes to timer counter. So you know which creature are out. So like playing cards, if you follow the cards, you know which creature is still in the forest and which is not. So you get a better chance with the knowledge than you would have without the knowledge. So you can play it without any knowledge, which is perfect because at the first game you do not know anything. But as you get better with meeting and learning about the creatures, you will have your chance up if you compare to someone who is just arrived. On the other hand, the Book of Encounters is made as kind of gathered knowledge by Jurets. We imagined like that. So like he put down and write down everything he knows about the creature, draw the sketch of the creature, beautiful, not, but that was also by the missions done, and you get the, of course, part that will lead you to the game, but it's the part where you compare fighting and so on. So a lot of branching and everything. That's the part that drives the game. But in front of that, you get the page with physical characteristic traits, beliefs, things that works and things that doesn't work on that creature. Is it physical or not? What is its preference and so on and so on. Backstory, how that creature emerged and why it's there. So 92 pages of lot knowledge is packed there, and we really try to keep it also interesting as much as we could.
Yeah, so it's interesting how in the game Forest of Radgost you can learn by experiences the game, and you can learn after about the Slavic mythology, but by reading all the information.
You can choose your own way. You can learn by experience, or you can learn in upfront and then play. It doesn't matter. It will change, but not sufficiently to. And we found out that even if you don't follow the mechanics completely, you cannot ruin the game, because, as I said, it's not about destination. We balance the game a little bit more to the winning, so it's rather like in fairy tale. It's bigger possibility that you will bring the children safely than to lose. You can lose, but it's not that simple to lose. And on the other hand, journey is what matters. So that's the core of the game. What happens in the forest and how it develops and what will become of your character and so on. So it's rather interesting to watch. And it's not only interesting to watch your move and then wait all others, but it's also interesting to see what happens with the other part of the characters in the story. So
you said to me earlier that it took 6 years to create the game. So from the first idea and all the process, all the testing with people, and in this process, what did you find the more difficult about the game design? Sorry, it's a difficult question.
Yeah, it's a complex question because it has several layers, and I would say that it's challenging from different directions that I didn't expect. So first is testing. Testing is a really, really important part, and with this game, it took a lot of testing to get the things right. So you have to be very patient and ready to receive feedback, implement feedback, and do that several thousand times, probably. I don't know how many times. It was fun, but it was time when we were just too tired of doing that again and again. And there was time that we were not all on the same line. How can we solve some problem with mechanics? And so it's rather, how can I say, a rather hard thing to do. And the other stuff that I found also very challenging is the number of different people that you have to cooperate, because you have, as I said, artists, which are one part of the spectrum of human behavior, and the technical part, because you have to be sure that the thing that artist has made could be used in the board game, and because we bring the artists from different parts, and some of them never do anything for board game, you are not sure that has been made could actually be produced. So one of the things was miniatures. I was impressed by miniatures. It was Sasha Ristic-Krieger, one of the he's actually the best possible mix of artist and Slavic expert in one person that we could hope to find. But on the other hand, his miniatures was so beautiful that he came, I'm not sure, maybe second year of the project, and he made the first miniature, and I was, wow, it's so beautiful. And then he made second and third, and then we came together and played the game, and we were watching all the art and everything that we have, and he said, it won't work. So we have to scrap everything that we've done because of those beautiful miniatures, and to bring everything for one level up. And that happened several times to just simply all the effort that you have done, you just see that it doesn't work anymore, and you have to reset and do that. You learn, you have experience, but some things just change. As I said, you have them, and you have technicians, and you have all sorts of things that you have to deal with if you want to do the Kickstarter. And this is important for me also. And I think that maybe for the future indie designers or the people who doesn't do that as their job, is that you will have to be something like Renaissance man, because you will not be able to pay everything. So you have to do most of the things that you can do by yourself. So basically, creating the game, if it's X axis like this, marketing of the game is Y axis. So these two doesn't have nothing in common. This different kind of skill set you need. So it's very, very challenging in terms how you can cover making the game, and you are so tired of making a game, and then you find nobody knows about that game, and you have to present it. And that is like new projects, and you have to have energy. And that's why the feedback and positive feedback of community is so important in our case, because that drives you. If you don't get that, I really don't know how people go to the end without positive feedback, without those waves of joy that you get when you see understanding of something that you have done.
Yeah, and I saw on your Facebook page. You have the Forest of Radgost and the Forest of Radgost tribe, like group. Tribe. Thank you. And there are a lot of people who follow you, and like they are really they support positively. They leave a positive comment, and I saw you create a real community with also your website, which is really complete. So you create a community of people who are positively happy. I don't know how to say, sorry. Positively happy about the game, and who will support you with the Kickstarter. So it's interesting. I think it's really positive that you create this kind of community about your game.
Yeah, it was, how can I say, a big surprise for us also, because it's not everything fine roses, and we really didn't expect to be this level of, how can I say, supportive and help that we receive, and everything. It has with something which is obvious, like the quality of art, the effort that is there, so you cannot miss that. But on the other hand, there is a deeper level of understanding what we started and wanted to achieve with this game. And it was really humbling experience to understand that you can connect with so many different people on so many continents. And I would say that is a lot because of mythology and those things that we spoke about, that the core values are same across the world, or more or less the same. So that's something that people can relate and can understand easily. And on the other hand, I started to think, why so supportive? Why it was something that was interesting to me also. And I have simple theory, which is probably just a small part of the truth. But I think that doing the cooperative game brings the people that like cooperative approach, and because they like cooperative game and cooperative approach, it's much easier to form the community. I really think that if you have competitive game and that kind of logistical, and so it's completely different kind of people and mindset that is drawn in. So it's partially because of mythology, partly because of cooperative, partly because of, so it's like good meal. You have to have all the ingredients and properly cooked and everything in the right measures to get it where it should be, to smell good, to taste good, to be healthy. So it's like everything counts. It's not one thing or few things. Everything counts. And as you know, and that's something that is always bothering me and is frightening. It's so hard to cook the meal and make the meal, and it's so easy to spoil it. So it takes one bad thing to happen, and it can spoil everything. So it's let's say a roller coaster ride. You're constantly measuring are everything there where it should be, or did you do something that shouldn't be done, especially because you're unexperienced in most of the things that you do. So you cannot know until it's unfold. So for me, the best strategy was to be open-minded and honest, and listen to the feedback, and that's how we approach this. So just open and honest approach to what we have done, and to see what happened. As I said before, for me, this is already success because of time invested and everything. For me, it's success, but I would really like for all others this to succeed, not only for us, like creators and money. Money is good. I don't have nothing against the money. So it would be nice to get some money, not only to invest, but for all the people that show that they care for this game and would like to play it. So I would really like this to be successful to the end, and feel a big burden of responsibility, not only for Kickstarter, but after Kickstarter, because then again it's restarted and we have to go to all those gritty details about production, fulfillment, and everything else. So you remember I spoke about X.
Yeah.
X1.
Yeah.
Now we get the Z.
Marketing.
Yeah, and now we got the Z. It's manufacturing, fulfillment, customs, taxes, and everything that must go right so that simple box enters someone's home. So it's a long way still if we make it through the Kickstarter. But as I said, I'm pretty positive and happy about this game, and I hope that we will manage to go through the Kickstarter and then everything that goes after that.
I'm positive about that because I saw the community and all the enthusiasm about the people. So I think it's a really, really good start. And for the people who learn about Forest of Radgost and want to pledge for the Kickstarter, you say it. The Kickstarter start the 10th of February, so tomorrow.
Yes.
And yeah, and on the Kickstarter page and on the Facebook page and the website, we can see the information. So in brief, just to be sure, you have different kind of pledge.
Yes.
You talk about that. You have the pledge without the miniature.
Yes,
and
with the standees. And
standees.
That's the core game. It's $64, but there is an early bird with a small discount. And after that is Oak Pledge, that is $99, and it's the core game with all the miniatures. And after that is Divine Pledge, which includes miniatures and standees and two big miniatures, the 120 millimeters, cup for dices, and some dices with marble effect, and some additional mission. So that's the Divine. It's $129. And we have, for those that are not interested in cooperative game or doesn't like the flavor of the game, we have provides Veronica Pledge, which is $49, and you get all the miniatures without the game, and that's all the miniatures and all the miniatures that will be in the stretch goals if we unlock the stretch goals. So there is a lot of things that there will be added if we go over the planet some. So we'll see. It will be a journey.
Yeah. And it's your first Kickstarter, so
Yeah.
how do you find it to create a Kickstarter? Because I think it's complicated sometimes.
Well, blessed are the those who doesn't know, or something like that is in the Bible. So I was blessed with the ignorance. I didn't know how complex it is, and it was just the game get better and better, and we saw that all the neighbors and their kids and everybody enjoys playing it, and we were, wow, why wouldn't we go to production? But then you understand that it's very hard to go to the publishers because it's completely different. And we tried with some publishers, and they didn't have will to pursue something like this, and they find it too complex and too expensive as a risk to take, so they didn't want to take the risk with that kind of the game at that level. So we found the crowdfunding like the next logical step. But I will be honest with you, my wife still thinks that I was too this game gone too far in terms of how big it is and how complex it is in terms of what are the costs to make this game. So this is something that we need to raise up pretty high sum to even go to production, because miniatures are the stumbling point. So basically this is also for the future people that want to do. We didn't think about things like how hard or how complicated it is to get this kind of game. to the market. We just
Yeah.
pursue the vision. But when we came, we now have 29 different miniatures. So basically, it's not like you have 100 miniatures, but there's 20 soldiers, 20 creatures, and so on. At the end, it's 6-7 miniatures, 29 different. So you have a lot of molds and a lot of tooling, which is quite expensive. So it's from one point, it's very beautiful, very, very rich, and I'm very happy to have it. From another point, it makes things, especially when you're first timer, very hard, because you come with look this big and expensive game that I want to give you as a first timer, and that's a little bit on the border of, let's say, being too brave, or maybe even some stronger word, a little bit insane. So, but let's be positive and see what will happen.
Yeah. So I hope, and I'm pretty positive about it, that the Kickstarter will go well, because, as we say, it's a really interesting game for different point of view, and it could be a good step to accept the risk, to try new things, and to pass by the fear of the new games. Maybe to finish on a positive note, what do you learn about all this process? Like the positive thing you learn for you or your family about the design of a board game.
There is a plenty of things that you gain from adventure, because this is adventure, this is a journey, this is something completely unknown to us. So this was first big project that we all do together, like Dimitri, I, and Alexandra, and we never had chance to spend so much time in doing some creative stuff and learn a lot of things about how we approach the problems that we usually do not have as a regular life and in a regular life in a family. And I learned that people can endure much more than they think they can, if they are really, really passionate about something. But it's also very, very good to have somebody who will be your guardian, not to go too far with your vision and everything. So it was challenging for the family, but I think that we get to know each other even better. That sounds strange, because I'm 20 something years in the marriage with Alexandra, so we should know each other. But this, how can I say, this stuff that is not usual and that could get you in a position that you are usually not, will bring some traits of character that you didn't know that you have. And so it's, from that perspective, we gained a lot as a family, and I meet a lot of different people, from artists, and beautiful feedback from the different part of the world. So I would say that arguably the biggest thing that happened to me in this is the richness of the characters and people that I have met, and the things that we have learned all during the process. So that's probably the most valuable thing that I carry from this. And creation is something that's very important, and it's core value for me. So creating something new that doesn't exist, and now it exists, and it will remain existing even if it doesn't pass the Kickstarter. He will remain with my son, and probably with his children. So it's all good in that perspective when you approach it like that. And on the other hand, it's very hard. So it's not something like you go there and you will enjoy it all the way. No, it's it's like you having two jobs and regular life beside them. So it's a little bit hard to balance everything. That's also challenging. And as I said, I think that it is something that we are all very happy that we have done. And I'm not sure that we will repeat this experience again. So it's 6 years to get to this point. I know that it will be probably faster next time, but now I just want to finish this project and go back to the normal life again.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's good.
Oh, thank you for this beautiful sharing about your personal experience in the game design and about the game Forest of Radgost. I find it really interesting to talk with you, and I begin to switch to French. Sorry. So
I understand you completely.
Yeah.
When we get tired, we start to mix the words also.
So true. So thank you really for this discussion, and I'm happy to learn more about the game because I read all the information on the website, but to talk with you is more personal, and it's a good sharing of all the process of the game design and all the motivation and the enthusiasm that you and your family put, all the energy they put in the game. So I'm really positive about the beginning of the Kickstarter, and I hope you will have a good sleep tonight.
I doubt it, but thank you.
Oh.
It's hard to say this part of the campaign and the project. Even if you want, you usually have to be just too tired to remain awake to fall asleep. But that's the part of the game, I guess. So it's okay. I will just, from my side, say thank you for this opportunity to speak with you, to share a little bit of backstory, a little bit of knowledge that we have. I am sure that anybody that is interested will find a lot of interesting information both on the website and Forest of Radgost Tribe and on Kickstarter page. So we try to give everything as clear as we could, and hope that everything is there so people can make the right choice and right decision about do they think that we deserve and do they like our game enough to back us. So let's see what happens tomorrow. But again, thank you for the time. Thank you for this discussion. I really enjoyed also. I actually am not too big fan of going public, but when it comes, as you see, when it comes to the Forest of Radgost, I just forget about myself. So it's a completely different feeling when you speak. And you were a terrific host, so it was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to put all the information for their website and the Kickstarter in the link. So in the description. So for people who listen, if you want, and I hope, if you want to check the website of Forest of Radgost, the Kickstarter page or the Facebook page, their information are going to be in the description, all the link and information. And I'm going to make two one in English and one in French. So in English, thank you for all the people who are listening to this video. I was talking with Ivan Rajkovic from the Forest of Radgost. So one of the game designer with his family, and I hope you like this video. I hope you're going to see the website. And I hope, if it's not happen, you like the YouTube channel and the Facebook page of Ludipsy in French now. Donc, merci à tous ceux qui ont pris le temps de nous écouter. C'était mon entrevue avec Ivan, qui un des membres dans la création du jeu de le Forest of Radgost, qui a pris le temps vraiment de nous parler de, pas juste la conception du jeu, mais toute l'histoire, la mécanique, l'aspect mythologique derrière ce magnifique jeu qui est vraiment un jeu narratif coopératif avec un peu de roleplay, qui vient vraiment un jeu complexe et très innovant. Donc, pour ceux qui souhaitent en apprendre davantage, j'ai mis les liens, les informations dans la description de la vidéo. Je vous invite vraiment à aller voir le Kickstarter qui commence demain, le 10 février. Également, si ce n'est pas le cas, je vous invite à liker la page Facebook, la chaîne YouTube et le blog de Ludipsy. So, thank you again and again, and thank you for your time tonight. And I hope you're going to have a good Kickstarter start with your family tomorrow. And yeah, thank you so much. So, bye-bye.
Thank you, and at the end, on the Serbian, hvala I lep ostatak dana vam želim.
Yeah, bye.